Welcome to the Epic Gaming Night Podcast, a podcast about the stories and relations board games create. I'm your host, Roy Kennedy, and with me today is Kent.
Hello.
Courtney.
Hi.
And Rob.
Hello. This is special. We're doing it on a special night.
We're doing it on a special night.
That's right.
We already had a special night.
Apparently.
Hey, Kent and Courtney, whatever happens between you guys, it's for you. We don't need to know about this. This is a family show.
It was Halloween.
Right.
You would think we were rescheduling because of Halloween, but no, we really just wanted Kent to be here at the beginning of the show because he's too addicted to Lorcana to come at the beginning of the show on Tuesday.
That's fair. That's fair.
He did skip Lorcana this week though because of Halloween.
Oh,
I don't know if they even had it, to be honest.
I heard that they had Halloween themed promos they were only
They
giving to
just
people that showed up on Halloween.
Well, I missed out.
I'm just kidding. That's not true.
Oh, man. That game. We'll talk about it. That game.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
We shall talk about it. But yeah, so how has everyone been? Anything exciting going on?
Well, I've done the exact opposite of our last episode, and
You bought nothing?
I've purchased 8 games, and I backed 2 Kickstarters.
Oh, never mind. You bought everything.
Yeah, I bought a lot. And then I sort of got in trouble earlier this week because my wife was like, "Hey, babe, will you just double check these charges on our Amazon credit card?
They seem suspicious."
Yeah, just this can't be right because we just." And I was like, "So
what had happened was,
see, babe, I did the thing, and then I transferred the stuff from my checkings to my savings, but I'm probably not going to buy." Quantity-wise, I'm probably not going to spend as much in November for volume. What I mean by volume is like I probably won't buy like 10 or so plus games in November like I did October. I bought more than that in October. I bought like close to 15, 20 games.
Holy smokes.
It was really bad. It was not a good month.
Yeah, and Christmas is coming up.
Yeah, then
Every time you buy one, you text me and you're like, I got to stop. Come on. You got to help me stop.
Yeah.
You're texting the wrong guy.
Yeah, definitely texting the wrong guy.
He's texting me back too. He's like, "Yeah, man, I need to really sell mine and cull mine." And then he'll talk about, "Yeah, I just ordered this." And I was talking about my Kickstarters that I backed, and he was like, "Oh, that's cute. Let me show you my 30-something Kickstarters and all these game founds." I'm like, man, like Kent makes me feel good because I feel like I have a problem, you know.
But then you talk to Kent, and he's got even more than you have.
We both have a problem. That's the issue.
Yeah. But next month, I'm definitely going to be backing Zombicide Deceased, and I'm outside of buying like a super huge Galacticus, whatever they do. I know it's not Galacticus, but outside of that, I'll probably go on everything else.
Yeah, I was like, we were brainstorming in the studio, like, oh, what would be the giant thing if they have a giant thing? I'm like, is it going to be like the Fortress of Solitude or something? I don't know.
That would be awesome.
Guess. What about like a big Doomsday or something?
Does Doomsday get big? I don't know. I don't know enough about big, Doomsday.
Maybe.
He can grow. He can grow. Yeah. I didn't realize this, though. It makes me mad. I'm going to try to find a copy of it now. I didn't realize on Marvel Zombies, if you have the Sinister Six box with the Marvel Zombies, you need that in the base box. If you do that, you can have 2 teams of 4 where you fight against each other. One is zombie heroes, and the other ones are just normal heroes. And you actually fight against each other, and you fight against normal zombies in the game, or the humans in the game. I was like, that is I was watching a video where a guy was talking, he was breaking down all of this stuff that came in Marvel. And this is the first one where actually they did teams where they fight against each other. But you need the Sinister Six. You need the base game and the Sinister Six expansion.
We still haven't gotten all that stuff.
It hasn't come in yet.
Yeah, they haven't come in yet.
Man, I saw that and I was like, oh my gosh, I hope they do something like that for Deceased. Or then I hope there's also like a crossover, because I know they do a bunch of crossover stuff for like Massive Darkness and things. Or it'd be really cool if you did like a Marvel versus a Deceased team style, where like the Marvel zombies versus DC zombies. So
are we skipping to the Deceased news right now?
Oh no, sorry.
No,
I mean, I could click on it. We could just talk about Deceased, but either way.
But yeah. So anyway, I will not be missing out on that again.
Nice. Yeah. Those miniatures for that game are going to be ridiculously good too. Like all Simon miniatures are.
They're gorgeous.
Yeah. Very good.
I guess we can jump into the news here, which is a very interesting thing. Magic the Gathering announced that they're going to be doing Marvel Magic the Gathering sets, and apparently this isn't just because normally they've done their Universes Beyond thing a little bit here and there. I went to the pre-release for the Lord of the Rings Universes Beyond thing, and normally they'll just do like a set and some commander decks and stuff like that. Well, with this Marvel thing, they're talking about doing multiple Marvel sets and doing multiple boxes of all sorts of different things. So apparently this is going to be a big thing coming for Magic the Gathering mixing with Marvel.
It makes sense.
Yeah, well, it's crazy how they're doing like more than just one set. I'm kind of surprised by that.
I've never seen that before.
Yeah, but there's so many characters.
Just, can we print
they
money?
should have done something like this sooner.
I guess, but
yeah,
there's a
what
thing called Marvel
crazy IP that you can add all this stuff in there.
It's crazy. It'll be
I
interesting
wonder how
to see.
successful it'll be.
Because like the mechanics of Magic are going to be interesting for Marvel. You know, it's like, oh, do I have to tap like a red and a white and a blue to be able to play Captain America? But like, that doesn't make. I'm sure there will be some sort of
instead of the one ring, there'll be like the 5 Infinity Stones or whatever that you can find.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I bet I could totally see that.
I think it's a great idea, and with Marvel having all of these, different universes and how everything's meshing and melding, it would totally make sense that the Marvel characters are fighting behemoths on another plane of existence. Like it's a smart move. Only bad time is I think the timing's bad because Marvel's kind of dying right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, people are kind of over some Marvel.
Yeah,
maybe not so much on the game side of stuff, but definitely like on the entertainment movie and TV show side.
Yeah. Another thing that we don't have in the news here is that they're also doing Magic the Gathering Fallout. So like the Fallout video games. That's right. They're making Magic the Gathering stuff. And that's actually coming out before this Marvel stuff is. They've actually got a lot of like pictures and stuff released for it. I really enjoy like Fallout 3 is one of my favorite video games of all time. So I'm kind of interested in going to like the pre-release event for that. Since I can't like collect Magic or like get a whole bunch of it just because it's so expensive, I think I might just try to do some of these pre-releases here and there just for the fun of it. So I did really well.
Go and do some drafting.
Doing sealed, it's not the same as like having to pay a bunch of money for it. You just pay your event fee and then get some packs and then you do the best you can with that, So that's good stuff. But enough Magic. We'll talk about Game Toppers.
Bro, Game Toppers, right?
Game Toppers has been around forever, and they've been making this quality product.
This is their 4th Kickstarter.
This is their 4th Kickstarter, and the cool thing about Game Toppers is basically they're a board game table that you can set on top of another table to make you have like this lip and this ring, and they have tons of different play mats that you can add into it. I know, didn't you teach a bunch of games? All those games you taught of Champions of Midgard back in the day was on a Game Topper, right?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Yeah, so, and we've had these in the studio and worked before. And they have a bunch of playmats. They actually recently released a video for Game Toppers with Last Light on their space mat, which is kind of funny.
Nice.
Did they get your permission to do that?
I'm pretty sure they got Gray Fox's permission to do it, to like promote their space mat that they have for the game and then show off Last Light on top of it, which I think is pretty funny because, Last Light's whole theme is that there's no stars left in the universe, and then they throw it on a space mat and just totally break theme, So, I'm just kidding. I'm not sure Berkey wants me to say that, but I find it funny. No. It looks really nice set up on the space mat. The video he put together looks amazing, and the game looks really great on a Game Topper. Berkey is an awesome guy, Kevin, who
such a great guy,
runs the whole company. Not only does he have he have good Game Toppers, he has good spice seasoning with Happy Mouth seasoning and jerky.
Right, he's a good cook.
He's amazing. I remember
barbecue pictures I like about this this Kickstarter for Game Toppers is he's released something new, or it's new to me at least, where you can now get leg kits, and you can turn your pre-existing Game Toppers into their own tables. So let's say, you wanted an additional table, or you wanted your Game Toppers to be its own thing rather than going on top of a table. I thought it was really cool. A really good idea of just like, okay, if you already have a Game Topper, you're already excited about it, but you want it to be its own thing for whatever, or permanently up, just make it its own table. I thought it was pretty smart. I'm also excited for some of their new designs, for some of their mats. I've got a couple of their mats. They're gorgeous. They're gorgeous. I have a medieval one. That's my favorite. That's on my game table. Where half the time, like, my ADD will kick in if I'm playing a game and it's not my turn. I'll just like play with my finger and like follow the dragon as he's flying and burning his village and doing this thing.
That's awesome. And these things are pretty easy to like put together and tear down. Like that's one of the things that's kind of like unique about the Game Topper is a lot of times if you buy a board gaming table, you're stuck with just a board gaming table. If you get a Game Topper, basically you can take it down and have like regular dinner on your kitchen table instead of having like, you know, the game table out there all the time, you know, which is kind of a unique aspect. And it like normally splits into two pieces and you can put it in the closet real easy. I mean, I've put together a ton of these things and taken a ton of these things down because we've used them for a lot of Dice Tower events as well. I think they have a ton of them at Dice Tower West. We used to have a bunch of them at Dice Tower East. So, but yeah, and we used to have them in the studio as well. So pretty good, pretty awesome tables.
Well, and one last thing I'll add, and I'm not trying to get like all crazy here, but they are made in the USA. That's a big deal. If you're paying attention to what's kind of happening right now in the world, there's a lot of delays. A lot of things are
that's hard to pull off. Also,
yeah, it ticks a lot of people off because now.
Well, no, I'm just saying like the to get that sort of manufacturing made in the US means that like it was. Their profit margins have to be not nearly as high as if they got it like made overseas, but you'll be able to get your table faster, I'm sure.
You'll be able to get it faster. I believe you also have a closer, like let's say if they say it delivers in February, it'll probably deliver sometime in February or March. So to me, that's a big deal. Like I was joking because I just got, I got something in from a game that I backed like pre-COVID. And it was just a piece of the game. It wasn't even the whole game. But it was one of those things where they have in their comments of like, hey, distribution and the containers and the ships coming in from the containers and this is the port and all this kind of stuff. So
it's a big
that's
deal, yeah.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
So we've had our Game Topper since the 1.0, and it's great. It's still holding up really well. We've bought a bunch of different play mats just to swap them out. Yeah. But yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, and if you're not interested in the table, like getting just the play mats is a really cool thing
we
too.
Got a play mat just for our downstairs table, and then we use that for just whatever, protect the table and play games on.
Protect the table.
Yeah. Protect the table.
Yeah.
The next one here is Tiny Epic Cthulhu. This is the opposite of the Death May Die Cthulhu. This is the Tiny Epic Cthulhu, not the gigantic Cthulhu.
Yeah, so this one's a co-op. So it's by Scott Alms, which he's done pretty much, I think, almost all the Tiny Epic games. I don't know if he's done every single one.
Every single one.
Every single one?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was pretty sure he did vast majority, but I guess every single one. This one's has a spinner in it, which sounds...
Oh, interesting.
I don't know how that's going to play.
Sounds maddening.
A lot of people are... I think that's maybe... They said it adds a lot of chaos, which is kind of the theme of Cthulhu and madness and, random crazy stuff. But anyway... that sounded interesting. People aren't super thrilled about that. I've seen on some of the comments, but I'm curious to see how it plays out. But it's kind of a bag building game, co-op, set in 1920s, kind of like the Lovecraft style. Like you kind of seen that in other games, and Fantasy Flight's universe and a bunch of other Cthulhu games. But it looks kind of interesting. I don't know a lot more about it besides that, but it's one more to add to the Tiny Epic collection. They've probably got maybe
what's
20
the
now,
total?
30?
Yeah, I was about to say, what's the total number of these now?
Quite a few.
They made the bag, which I have, which the bag doesn't even fit all the Tiny Epic games anymore.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's crazy. Next, we're going back to Deceased.
Deceased, yes. Kickstarter
coming November 14th.
Soon. Very excited. I think it's November 14th.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
November 14th. But I was watching the dev. The same guy that made a Song of Ice and Fire. He's working on this one. Really, really excited about that. But what I thought was kind of cool is the terrain on this one. Because you're a superhero, right? You can pick up the terrain and throw it at people. You couldn't do that in previous games. And they were talking about how the Daily Planet, like that big gold, basically their big monument or item that they have outside of the Daily Planet that just like turns around and stuff like that. Anyway, that is one of the only pieces in the game that if you throw it, it won't break. And so you can use it to just clear like a street of zombies or however you want to, just picking it up and throwing it back and forth. But I thought that was really cool. It makes sense. It goes with the theme of like the superheroes could, pick up a lamppost and start chucking it at enemies or picking up vehicles and things like that. So, and it was also nice. I didn't know before about the November 14th. So it was nice to see a final date of like, okay, here in a couple weeks, we should be able to start spending money.
Now, you're playing as the good guys or you're playing as the bad guys or what? Do you know the details on that?
It's going to be a mix.
I'm sure it's going to be both like the other one, right?
Okay. It's based off of the comic book where it is like, kind of like the Marvel zombie side where some of them are bad. But going off of the picture here,
I see Superman's pretty messed up looking.
Yeah. It might be like a couple of people are bad and then you're also a couple of good. So I'm interested to see how deep they go into it, if they're going to do like the Marvel side or whatnot. So yeah, I don't know all too well. I know Superman's going to be zombie, and if he's not, they have a terrible marketing team because that's like all the pictures.
Right? Yeah.
It's like zombie Superman Clark Kent with his face right there.
There's no hope for the regular humans.
Yeah, they don't stand a chance against Superman.
Bro, I'm so excited for this one. I'm more of a DC fan anyway than I am a Marvel fan. But like we were talking earlier, I will not mess up again. I will be backing this.
Oh snap!
And so, because I didn't think Marvel Zombies. I was like, okay, it'll be kind of cute, but I didn't realize they had all the stuff in it that they do have in it, and so I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, that seems like a no-brainer for you with all the zombie side stuff that you have already.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? I scheduled the Dice Tower live play of this for a week from tomorrow. So
okay,
not tomorrow Friday, but the Friday after. They're going to be playing
the 10th.
Deceased live, and I'm going to be pressing the buttons behind the scene, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
make it out.
November 10th. That's awesome.
Yeah. Nocturne is the next game here. It looks like it is illustrated by Beth Sobel. But I guess we'll have Kent talk a little bit more about this one.
Yeah,
I think he might know more than me.
So this is in the same series as some other flat-out games like Calico, Cascadia, Verdant are the last three, I think. And it's a design team that kind of works on all those games. They're all kind of puzzly, sort of Euro-y kind of games. This is, like I said, this is the latest one in the series. Beth Sobel's art is great, except I'm not really too keen on these anthropomorphic animals in this game. But basically, you are these mystical foxes or creatures. That's the theme. You're casting spells to collect these little artifacts and things, and you're using that. It's like a set collection kind of thing. But it's got this weird pathing system where you're kind of bidding on tiles, but each of you're like casting a spell, which is like a tile with a number on it. You're putting that down on a tile to try to claim it, but someone else can outbid you by placing it adjacent to you by claiming a different tile with a higher number. And then there's like powers that happen on the tiles depending on what tile you placed on. It can do some crazy stuff. But ultimately, you're collecting tiles, doing set collection with some like a pathing sort of bidding thing, which I've never kind of seen in any other game. Cool. And it looks good, but like I said, I'm not a big fan of the animals, but it looks interesting. I haven't seen a game that does that kind of stuff. There is some contract fulfillment too, where you're collecting the tiles to try to turn them in for certain, fulfill orders kind of thing too. It seems like a very different game than Calico, Cascadia, and Verdant, and those three. But anyway, it's worth checking out, I would say. It's still on Kickstarter right now. It's going to be there for 36 days. And that is Nocturne.
Nice. Well, I guess we can get into the games we have played. Ooh. And it looks like first up on the list is Rob.
I'm so excited. I am so excited. I'm really upset with Kent. Kent.
I know.
This. So
my fault.
If you're okay, I know I put in Dice Throne first, but I want to talk about Lorcana first, just because I want to get Lorcana out of the way.
That's even
Lorcana
worse.
is cute. Lorcana is nice. It's a fun game. I don't know if I'll jump into Lorcana
I don't see any Mad Hatters on the table in this. You're doing it wrong.
Well, Kent was going to a tournament, and the tournament was in Winston-Salem. And I was like, "Hey, Rob, do you mind if I spend the night?" I said, "I would love to have you. I think it'd be a lot of fun."
Awesome.
And so he came up and we played some games, and then he left the next morning and went to the tournament, and then I left and went to church. I guess I didn't pray hard enough because he lost, but
I did terrible. But it was super fun. It was a good
time. Super fun. Lorcana's not a bad game. There are some things about Lorcana that I like, where like you're painting or when you're putting your person down, it's not so much on lands. You can actually use your characters for your lands. So there's some cool things about that. I like the artwork of Lorcana. I wanted to put it down saying I played it because it's like one of the hot games right now. So
we played like 15 games with it, back to back to back to back to back.
Yeah, but we were also doing that for the tournament.
Right. Yeah, but we played it a bunch.
But it was fun. Like I would play it again, but I'm not like, oh my gosh, I have to have this. But I'm also not like a big card game person like Kent or even you, Roy, and like the Magic style people. Like that's great, good for y'all.
I was the one you were biggest on was Ashes back in the day, right?
Yeah, I like it, but nobody would play Ashes with me. And so all the games I like, there's like nobody local that'll play. Like I like A Song of Ice and Fire, nobody around. I like Ashes.
I had to play Ashes head to head sometime. I've been playing the co-op a bunch.
I would love to play. I need to get the new stuff, but I haven't even picked up
I have a ton of Ashes now.
Yeah, I saw you playing on the flight to Vegas.
I was playing solo against the Chimera stuff. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, see, I want to get that. But here's what I'm really excited about. Oh my gosh. Dice Throne.
Yes.
Kent, he was like, "Hey man, I brought a couple games just in case you wanted to play these other games. Let's just check them out." And I was like, "Are you interested in Dice Throne?" Well, the box is gorgeous, by the way. He brought the Marvel's Dice Throne, and I was like, "Sure, I'd love to give it a shot. I'm all about presentation." And so he pulled out Marvel Dice Throne, and we only played one game. He was Miles Morales, Spider-Man, and I was Thor. This has got to be one of the prettiest games I've ever played.
Yeah, the inserts are awesome too, right?
Game. Yes, it's a simple game. I think Brass Birmingham aesthetically is a better looking game, but I didn't expect the cardboard to be as thick. I loved how all the dice were like etched. It wasn't just like pasted on. Even the counters and everything, and then Kent did it the way that Kent does it. So then he has like the little card sleeves for each person. So they have their own custom sleeves. So Thor's cards are in Thor's sleeves, and everything is just decked out. I had so much fun playing this game. It's simple. Dice Throne is very simple. You pick a character, I pick a character, and we just chunk dice. And then based off of our cards of what you're seeing in front of us, if you can get a combo of X, Y, or Z, you do X, Y, or Z. And then you fight back, and you try to block it, you try to do other attacks, and it's really that simple. It's not a complicated game at all. But presentation wise, this was one of the prettiest games I've ever played, just because I loved the quality. It was the quality. I love the vibrant colors. I love the thick cardboard. And then like the Thor that you can see in front of me, and also the Spider-Man Miles Morales, the way that they fold in on top of each other, and then they have the player sheet that goes underneath that, and then you have all the things, the dice and the chips, the different powers that you can stack and whatnot, and then they fit into your own insert. So he has the Marvel Dice Throne battle chest. Not every version has the battle chest. There are a bunch of versions where you can buy them like individually. The next day, I think I had ordered season 1. And then, I ordered season 1, and then I went ahead and I backed the Kickstarter for the X-Men.
The new one looks amazing.
Yeah, the X-Men Dice
Throne $3 million. What the crap?
Yeah, it's
a good
awesome.
game.
The only reason I ordered season 1 is because I didn't want to have to wait. So I was like, all right, I saw season 1, I saw season 2. I like the character options better initially for season 1, so that's why I was like, all right, I'll play a barbarian versus a paladin versus a ninja versus this other stuff.
Treant.
It's the Treant, yeah. And then after I got my set in, I was like, well, I can't not get the card sleeves now. So then I went ahead and I ordered the card sleeves. for this stuff. And so now I have
my goodness
chest, and I've got my X-Men. Once that comes in, which it'll either be hopefully sometime next year, but I can now play Dice Throne. A fun game. There's also a way where you can play against multiple people. So that's really cool too. So you don't have to play just one-on-one. You can play up to 4 people. And the X-Men Dicemen, I believe Marvel has this as well, but the X-Men on the Kickstarter, they're also doing missions where it's coming with a board. You can flip it over and you can do little missions against people. Like, this game, if you just like that head-to-head, this, you know what? This is the Lorcana that I want. This is that. I don't have to worry about land or making my deck. Like, it is what it is. I've got Thor, the dice and his powers work perfectly for Thor. Then you can upgrade powers. Same thing with Spider-Man. Same thing with all these other characters. It just makes sense. So it's basically pre-built decks where you can upgrade your stuff and fight against each other. So much fun. Several $100s later, I'm very excited that we played this game. It was just phenomenal. This is definitely easily my top 20. It might be number 10 or 11 of top 10. I had that much fun. As soon as it came in, I put everything together. My daughters are like, Daddy, what's this? I'm like, right now, don't touch it. It's still brand new. We'll play soon. Just like, I'm all excited. I'm putting the cards and sleeves and I'm looking at everything. But just so excited. I'll probably try to play against my oldest daughter here soon. But yeah, Dice Throne. Had a blast. If you like good looking games and you like that versus Take That, because this is a big Take That game, check this out.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever won Dice Throne, but I've had a blast playing it every single time I played. I just do terrible at this game. I don't know why.
Yeah, I do pretty bad too.
Ruthie's wrecked me every time we play. It's been fun.
I did beat Kent. Yes. I got to do this combo.
It was pretty close.
Thor.
It was pretty close.
Very close.
Yeah, you definitely beat me for sure.
Yeah. If I didn't kill you then, though, I think the next round you would have killed me because I was down to like 10 or 15 points. And man, when you first start off the game, like we played with 50 health. When you first start off the game, and Kent's like, all right, I'm gonna go first. All right, here's what we do. Boom, boom. I hit you for 17. I'm like, shut your face. No, you don't. We just started playing. You hit me for 17. This is ridiculous. I was able to block a good chunk of that stuff. But you hit really heavy, and some of the attacks are like your special super attacks that are unblockable, and that's how I was able to beat Kent. I did this special thing with Mjolnir where it couldn't be blocked, and it says that you can do it to the same person multiple times, or if you're playing multiplayer, you can just have Mjolnir just go all over the place.
That's awesome.
And so since I was just playing Kent, it was just like doom, 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 doom on top of my attack. So it was a lot of fun. I just love the quality. I love a good looking game. And I love the way it feels. It's not cheap. And to me, that kind of matters. Like, if I'm going to spend money on something, I want to make sure I'm getting something that, I feel is worth it. And this stuff is definitely worth it. And oh my gosh, the presentation on the cabinet. Oh my gosh, it's such a pretty box. So nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very well presented.
Yeah, the art's really good.
I'll be quiet, but yeah, Dice Throne. Lorcana, Dice Throne, yes.
Nice. So for me, I want to talk about D&D. I'm going to talk about D&D. Rob's been talking about D&D, so now it's my turn. So at work, Tom was like, I guess part of our Kickstarter campaign was, we're going to run like 5 times we're going to do a role-playing game. And Tom's like, we got to get this done. So Tom had actually been working on like setting up stuff to run this. And so he asked me if I want to play. I was like, most definitely. Like, I love D&D. I will definitely play. And being able to roll up our characters, like we all got together and rolled up our characters and like got everything ready for the stream. And we streamed our first thing and it was like a blast. Tom was worried. He's like, because Tom knows like I have a lot of experience playing D&D in the past, but honestly I haven't played in a long time. And the last time I played 5th edition was with you guys, with Rob, it's been a long time since we did our Misplaced Meeple stuff, so, and that's all on the channel here, but that was like forever ago. But it was really cool. I rolled up a Dragonborn Sorcerer that has like a crocodile head, because, Florida. But yeah, we were rolling up all of our different stuff, and I guess my flaws is that I trust no one. So as we played the thing, everybody's like, Roy's questioning everyone about everything. I'm like, listen, my character's flaws is they trust no one. But people said in the chat that it was readily apparent that I'd played a lot more D&D than everybody else, but I was just going for it, for all the role playing and all the craziness and having fun and questioning everybody about everything and getting into it and trying to help the other players because everybody else, Joey has played a teeny bit of D&D, a little bit here and there. Tom has played D&D way back in the day, and Z and Camilla were like brand new to D&D, so this was their first time playing. And it's just that aspect when you're so used to playing board games of like, no, this is a game where you can literally do whatever you want. You know, yes, you have to roll. Yes, you have to roll to try to see if it happens. But like, you're literally just there to interact with the world and the story that the DM has played. And Tom did a great job of like letting the players, like, he had the story in his head. He knew what he wanted to happen. He knew the beats he wanted to happen. But he let us interact with it the way we wanted to. Some DMs are just like, oh, they kind of force you into a path or force you into this or that. Tom did an amazing job of just like going with the flow and seeing what happened. And if we wanted to do this or we wanted to do that, he was able to adapt the story to kind of like mold around what we were doing. And it was a lot of fun exploring that stuff. Everything was very wacky, but it's going to be a lot of fun doing this. And I'm excited that like I literally rolled up a D&D character and played a game of D&D for my day job. What? I mean, I know I do board games all the time, but mostly that's editing and doing stuff behind the scenes. But no, I was playing D&D for my day job. Just seemed crazy to me, you know? It's like, what? I made it. I finally made it after all this.
Yeah.
I finally made it, you know?
Yeah.
So, and then, like, Tom had a lot of fun with it. So he's like, yeah, we're going to do it. Because, like, the comments, because we were worried. He was very nervous, the fact that, like, we're not as experienced with D&D as a lot of people out there are. There's a lot of people that do videos of D&D that like have thousands and thousands and millions of views, you know, all over the place. And he was worried that people were going to be like correcting us on the rules. And I didn't worry about that because it's D&D. Like, what rules, right? So, but no, he had a blast with it, and the comments were extremely nice to us. So he's down to do it a bunch more. So I'm excited to see how that turns out. Nice. But yeah, so had a lot of fun playing D&D, and I'm extremely excited to do it more, so that'll be cool. And see how our story unfolds.
Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite part.
Yeah. I got threatened by a wizard. He blew up a chair because I was questioning him about, like, these magic coins that we had. He knew something about the magic coins, but he wouldn't tell us. And I was like, listen, if you're the best wizard in the world, why can't you just tell us? And he blew up a chair right beside me. I guess that was some sort of threat. He didn't want me to keep asking. But no, it was a lot of fun.
And you just took it? You didn't do something about it? Like, ooh, you could blow up a chair. Ooh, like you didn't poke the bear anymore?
I play characters that are, I was like slightly antagonistic, but also not like stupid. I wasn't going to like, if the DM says no by blowing up things, I'm not going to be like your characters and just kill kids, you know? So
that's not me. That's Sammy. But, yeah. I guess, yeah, you have to play nice if it's with the boss.
Yeah, sometimes. It was fun, though. It was really good. But yeah, it'll be cool to see how the story unfolds. It's one of the interesting things is, like, as a DM, like, you have an idea of what you want to happen, but you're not even sure yourself how everything's going to play out, you know?
Now, what's your schedule for it? Are you guys like doing it like once a month, or is it every other month? Or
so we did it last Thursday, and we're going to do it again next Thursday. So we're doing it every other week currently. So we'll see. It just depends on timing and scheduling and what other live plays we have. But like if Tom's excited about it, then we'll keep doing it, which will be cool. So we've been doing the D&D Beyond thing online to like make our characters. So that's been kind of interesting too, because when we did all the Misplaced Meeples stuff, I don't think that stuff existed really. So
no,
do you do all the D&D Beyond stuff with your group, Rob?
We don't sync them all because like everyone has like the free version.
Oh, gotcha. Cool.
But they use it to make their standard character, and it's really nice for them to be able to track how many spells they have left, or however they have this, or what items they have, or also if they forget their dice. The app has got a really cool mechanic where you can roll dice on the app. We use it, but we haven't like synced all of us together where I can move the campaign along. I've
heard that if like one person buys it, or if like the DM buys it, then it like allows the other players to use the same books and stuff like that. It's kind of interesting, but I don't know. Yeah, interesting stuff.
The problem is my wife plays with me now, and so if I tell her I'm buying the same books again,
yeah, that is true. Well, let's go to Kent's game.
All right.
Under the Sea.
Yeah, exactly. We both played Oceans with the Legends of the Deep expansion in there. We'd actually never played Oceans before. This is one we'd gotten a while back and just it's been sitting on the shelf for quite a while. But we had played Evolution, which is like the other game. It's like kind of like the prequel game to this game. So Evolution was like you're creating these different species and, getting them to eat and develop and stuff. And anyway, Oceans is kind of similar, where you're just creating species that are different ocean creatures. You're giving them different traits, and you're trying to use these traits to figure out ways to get these species more food and increase their population. Essentially, is kind of what you're doing. But it comes down to kind of like card tableau building, kind of card combos. So you can have you're trying to get a lot of different species in front of you. And you're trying to find a way for them to either eat from there's different areas where the species can eat from. There's a reef, which is kind of like, where an animal goes to forage, or you can attack other players, and you can attack your own species too. So there's like combos you can make where you could have one of your fish eat your other fish, but then because it ate the other fish, it gets to get free food from the reef, and like it's very combo-y in some ways. And feels very much like Evolution, but with more stuff added on top, a little bit more added on top. So in the game, basically you have a species board, where you're going to put your fish, and then you're going to put your traits that each species has next to it, and then you're going to have there's this reef board where you collect fish from to add your population. And there's this ocean board, which has 3 different regions, and then depending on when those regions get depleted, it's going to be like a game timer. So that on the picture right there shows the reef and then the ocean boards. And so when the fish are depleted from those different sections, then it triggers special abilities on those cards sitting in the trays. And basically what's going to happen is eventually about maybe a midway point or maybe a quarter through the game, you're going to have what's called the Cambrian explosion. This is when the game gets crazy. So that pretty much changes the game in a way where you get these cards called deep cards that are like all sorts of unique crazy effects and crazy fish and crazy traits, and they make your species like really do crazy different things, like super powerful things, almost like game breaking things somewhat. And that's probably the coolest part of the game that I like the most, is like, so you can see that one of the pictures there is a bunch of deep cards. They're just all these crazy unique traits that do different things for you, that really differentiates your species you're making, and changes up the way like you can get food, or changes the way you attack other players and stuff. And then the last thing was with this game is that we added in the expansion with the Legends of the Deep. So everyone gets some legend cards to start with, and you draft these. And they're oversized cards, and they give you like super powerful special abilities that are just like, you can only typically have one in play at a time, but you can swap them out. And they're a way to like really manipulate the board state. So I had this creature that it added extra attack to all my creatures. And if I had the highest strength of all the creatures on the board, I could ignore people's defense. So like I could just just go in and eat whatever I wanted to, as long as I was the most powerful. So it's kind of like it was like the ultimate Apex Predator card. And then I had this card that let me have multiple legend cards in play at one time. So like that super game breaking kind of crazy stuff. So like I really like the chaos and like all the craziness that goes on with this game, like with this expansion and with the deep cards. It's like it takes Evolution and adds a lot of crazy cool stuff into it. And the ocean theme is cool. So I enjoy this one quite a bit. There's also a Cthulhu card I had in there that was like, seemed crazy powerful, but it actually cost me the whole game to play. But it was fun to play Cthulhu. That's in that picture there too.
It's crazy to see like, the fishes and the nice like peaceful stuff, and Cthulhu and Sobek and like.
Yeah, exactly. So when you first start playing this game, you don't have to play with the deep cards. You don't have to play with the Legends cards. But I like adding that stuff in there because it just the ocean is kind of big and mysterious anyway. So it's like, why not add that kind of stuff in there? So I enjoyed it quite a bit, and that's Oceans with the Legends of the Deep.
Cthulhu Kent Parker confirmed.
Yes. Yeah, I was so annoyed because when you're drafting the cards, obviously you see almost all the cards, but you don't see that one card that the other person picks first. And so the card that he picked first was the card that allowed him to play other cards, other legend cards.
We're talking about yeah.
And and because typically you can only have one legend card out at a time, and so I was like, when he played that card, I was so blown away. I was like, what? But all these cards are like game breaking abilities. Like they make it a lot of fun. But I was like so mad. I was like, ugh. And then he would like play another one, and then he play another one, and then he play another one. And then he like one of the second last ones that he played, it totally backfired on him because he didn't think I would be able to handle it because it hurt me in a way.
Cthulhu, yeah.
And legend too close to the sun.
I also, but it like totally backfired on him from some. But I was able to use my game breaking ability cards to make it backfire on him. So, but
it's very interactive for this kind of game for sure.
But I would get so mad because he'd eat all my fish and yeah.
And that is the Oceans.
Oceans, yeah, definitely check it out. It's worth a look.
I'm excited to learn about Courtney's game.
Yes,
Apiary.
Yeah, so we got an Apiary by Connie Vogelman and Stonemaier Games, and it looks incredible. Robbie, you were talking about games that look really good, and I just think this game looks so good. It's Kwanchai Moria art and everything, and it just I just love the table presence of this game, and obviously the components are all good. But in this game, you're playing as one of there's 20 unique factions of bees, and it's a worker placement game. So you're going out to the different spots. One allows you to explore different planets, basically to collect resources from those planets. Other spots allow you to like buy tiles, and those tiles are basically updating your technologies, which allow you to do make other actions easier, or give you one-time bonuses, or they allow you to extra spots to place your resources or production. And then there's other spots that let you buy tiles that are like in-game scoring tiles. The kind of the neat mechanism with this game is with your workers. So each faction is different. So you start out with different number of workers. Your workers are in different levels, but all the bees are leveled 1 through 4. And so a lot of them start at 1, and then you would place it out to do an action, and then when it gets kicked off the board or you take it back, it gets bumped up to a 2. And then you put it out, and then when it comes back, it gets bumped up to a 3. When it gets bumped up to a 4, when you use that 4 all on the board, each spot has like a special action you can do if your worker's a level 4B. And then once it gets kicked back from the 4, it goes to hibernate. And so it basically it gets taken away from you. It goes inactive, and it goes back to a 1, and you have to go back to another worker spot to like get it back. So there's kind of that's kind of the timing of the game. When the first time we played this, we were just going along and playing the games, moving up the B, and you're just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna do this, and then you realize, oh, the time, like that's the whole timeline of the bean. So basically, only 8 bees can hibernate, and then that's the end of the game. And you each have 4 workers, so that's basically
at least in a 2-player game.
In a 2-player game, so basically, once your 4 bees get hibernated, then that's the end of the game, and you're just like, oh, I can only, oh, okay. So it's a super fast game. I think the second time we played it in on like an hour. Mm-hmm. And it was one of those games that you don't want it to end, which isn't too often where you're playing. I mean, that's a sign of a good game for me when it's like, okay, I don't want this to end. I want to keep going. But it's kind of random. I think we were looking at some of the pros and cons or scores on BGG, because there's obviously haters that are giving it a 1 and haven't played it yet.
To balance the 10.
Right.
To balance the 10s.
Yeah, I hate that.
But there is a lot of randomness with the game. There's cards that you can gather to kind of give you points, and then there's tons of tiles that you're not going to see all the different tiles that come out every game. The scoring tiles that are in-game scoring are different every game. And then the factions are very different too. And so, like when we were playing our second game, we were kind of choosing between like 3 different factions. I was like, oh, if I pick this faction, I could easily see how to win the game. Like it was basically simple. It's just you get 1 point per tile. Like so you just go heavy on tiles. Where but I picked a different faction that was like, okay, but I get to get my workers back faster. So it was a lot more fun, but it did not Kent destroyed me that game. But I felt like I had more fun playing. So
is there much interaction as far as the players, or do you feel like it's more multiplayer solitaire?
It's interaction on the board itself, in the worker placement spots, and the workers' values are important. So a lot of the spots have to do with how the action power determines how good the action is somewhat. And some of those actions are combined with 2 workers together. So Courtney's worker plus my worker combined would be the power of the action. So sometimes that matters. There's not a ton of interaction as far as...
I mean, they can sometimes take the tiles that you want, obviously. In typical worker placement.
For sure.
Trying to get stuff where they have it.
But I wouldn't call it direct conflict.
Yeah. No. It's pretty light. It's a lot lighter than I thought it was going to be, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It was kind of light to midweight, I would say.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But it's kind of like I said, I think one of the main cons that people would put is it's kind of random, which I think is fine in a shorter game. If you're playing this to win and you're oh, I want to be able to strategize these, and I think depending on what faction you get and what tiles come out, you might look, and I'm sure people are going to say, oh, that's overpowered or whatever, because people love to say things are overpowered when people have asymmetrical powers.
You become very different as the game goes on.
It's very different, and then
with the abilities.
And so your faction that you picked in the very beginning of the game might end up working really well with the ingrained tiles that are out there, and that just may be something that happens. But like I said, I think it's a short enough game that you can't I don't know. It's still I lost.
We've only played 2.
We only played twice.
Quick with 2, but I don't know about 4.
But and I lost both games. The first one was pretty close, and the second one you just annihilated me, and I still had a ton of fun. Just trying out the different. I thought the different powers and stuff were what made the game fun. Mm-hmm. Trying out the different things.
But the powers aren't too crazy where it's gonna be a tapestry type thing, right? It's gonna be.
It's
not that bad, right?
Not that bad,
okay,
but there are some. Maybe there are some pretty powerful things you can get. Some of the starting factions can be pretty game changing. I would say
it's interesting because maybe
not as differentiated, but
I love the way the game looks, and I'm really excited to try this one out. Especially the fact that you said it's lighter. That seems really cool too. But yeah, in a game with less interaction, if there's asymmetrical powers, they have to be so fine tuned. Especially if other players can't interact with the power that the player that might be too good. If you can't pull someone down who's doing really, really has a really broken power, then you have to have the faction super, super balanced, because it's well, you won the game because you got that thing, So I'm hoping that
you can stop them by taking away those tiles that they need. Typically it typically has to do with the tiles that come out,
and the in-game scoring tiles are hard to get. They're not cheap, and you only can get you can only use a 4B for them. So you really have to plan to get them. And so I mean, you could,
I'm sure that comes with familiarity of the game as well. If you know, that faction's really good with that in-game scoring, I'm going to grab that one,
Right.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
And it's not only the in-game scoring cards, but those red, so the red tiles on the board are tech tiles they're one-time abilities that are super powerful typically.
Oh, cool.
And then the blue ones are your recruits. They're extra, they're not really workers per se, but they're adding people to your your hive or whatever, and they're usually really powerful abilities that are ongoing, kind of broken abilities. So now when you go do an action, you get to do this special thing in addition to that, and then the green ones are the farms, which are basically for storing extra resources. Also, when you retrieve your workers back, instead of placing a worker on turn, you retrieve your workers back. You can choose farms to produce resources. There's production on each of those depending on how many workers you pull back. So each worker you pull back is to produce on one of your farms. So that's it's kind of like that thing with Dwellings of Eldervale and Cryo, where you have some.
I love that.
There's not you're not totally wasting your turn by pulling back workers.
I love
you do
that.
A little bit of bonus, when you do that, and you get to choose what that is.
And the other thing, there's this Queen's Favor track.
Oh right, yeah.
So you only have certain number of spaces you can put resources. So the number of resources you can keep is kind of limited. But if you have to discard, and you have to discard resources at the end of your turn if you don't have enough room for them, But if you have to do that for every resource you discard, you get to move up on the Queen's Favor track, and that's like worth points at the end of the game. So it doesn't. And like the higher you go up on the track, the more points those are worth. So like, yeah, I could see like in our first game we played, I tried to go up super high on that track. And there's other ways to go up on that track too, but like, that's like another way you could get a lot of points. And so there's like lots of different ways to score points in this game. And so I think that all the different strategies makes it really interesting because you can try different things each time and it's all, I don't know. I thought I had a really lot of fun with it.
Yeah. But it's a very straightforward game. Like it's not complicated. Anytime we had questions, it's in the appendix.
Oh God, the rule book and the
appendix is like, how does this tile work exactly? It's in the appendix and it tells you exactly how it works.
Yeah,
so it's really nice to, So they thought of all the edge cases a lot of the time.
That's awesome. I'm stoked to like try it out because it looks really cool. I don't think it's come into the Dice Tower yet, so we'll see. So,
but it'd just be ready for a Euro game. It's definitely a Euro game, but it's.
I like lightweight Euro games, especially if there's like resource management stuff in it and things like that. And the fact that you say it's random actually makes me like that sort of thing more. I don't know why I enjoy them.
I like that too. Yeah. Euro games where it's random, you get to feel like you do really cool stuff and like you get really differentiated from everybody else's. Feels fun.
I just don't. I think personally, I don't like a Euro game where you can math it out. It's just a puzzle. It's very much the efficiency puzzle is very similar and always the same. And then I feel like if I know the game really well, then I'm going to do really well most of the time I play it, and I can't teach it to new people. You know, if it has a little bit of randomness in there, it makes it a little bit more casual, and it means that I can bring it open to a wider audience of people. You know,
there are a lot of Euro games that are like that. And a lot of Euro games these days don't really have that aspect you're talking about. A lot of them have that kind of like. That was just great.
Except the really heavy ones, you know. Sometimes there's like no luck heavy Euro. It's like some people love that.
Sometimes it can be solved. Yeah, sometimes it can be solved, but.
Yeah, and I think this one. Normally, I'm not a huge fan of randomness, like a ton of randomness. But this one, like I said, it's not like a 3-hour game. And it's like, like I didn't feel like I had a chance. Like this one's, like I said, it took us like an hour to play it with the 2 players, and it was just fun. And even after that hour, I was like, I don't want it to be over. Like I wanted to keep playing. So it's good.
Nice. Well, I guess we'll go into our topic of the week. Things that scare people away from the hobby. So, did we say that Courtney came up with this topic?
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of going with the Halloween theme because I thought we were going to be doing this on Halloween.
We did it. We made it. The 2 days after Halloween.
It's the Day of the Dead, so that'll count, right? So. So the first thing that I thought of when I was thinking of this topic was rule books. Is like because I just think that's the. Because I feel like, growing up, I mean, I'm old, but like I remember playing video games like that didn't have tutorials, so you had to like sit and try to figure out what does this button do, what does this button do, and now you play a video game and they just walk you through the whole like first 10 minutes of the game is like the tutorial of them showing you what buttons do and how to do this and how to do this. Like, I wish there was an easy way to do that, and I think some games do have tried doing stuff like that, like Jaws of the Lion is one of them. I've heard that, and we haven't played that one yet, but I feel like rule books are such a big barrier to play, especially for non-gamers. They're just, I mean, growing up games, they were like, the rules were printed on the back of the box, and so it's like when you look at a rule book that's like 10 pages long, it's a lot. Even if some of that's reference material, but it's kind of overwhelming.
Yeah.
And then I think having to teach that, because you're not going to play, not a lot of board games you're going to play by yourself, so then you're going to have to learn the rule book and then teach that to 2, 3, 4 other people, and then they have to trust you that you learned it right, and that's kind of overwhelming too, I think, for some people.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it's a huge barrier of entry of just learning how to play the game, There are some apps and things I wish they'd take off, like stuff like Dized. Like has that sort of thing where it teaches you like a tutorial, like step by step how to play a game. But I don't think Diced has that many apps on it or that many games on it. It's just like the really hot ones, which have other video tutorials and stuff like that are out there for them already, probably. So
yeah,
but yeah, it's good stuff.
I think Apier has Diced, I believe.
Oh, nice! That's awesome.
I think I saw it on the cover. But yeah,
I mean, I think the videos are kind of ways to get around that.
Rodney.
But yeah, Rodney
helps.
But I mean, but it too, if you're new to the hobby, you might not know those things exist too. So I mean, I think sometimes they put them on the box and stuff like, oh, if you want to learn how to play this game, then go watch this video, which I think is something that helps. But yeah, that was the main thing I was thinking.
Yeah, I mean, but there's so many aspects of what can scare somebody away from the hobby.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's just endless almost. Like, Rob and I have talked about it a lot. Just the sheer cost of this hobby, especially if you're trying to get into it like we are, it's not cheap, and it's almost overwhelming with the choice. Like, how do you know what to buy? Especially if you're trying to get in, you're like, oh well, there's 1,000 games to buy I could maybe get, but which one is the best one to get? Why should I get this one over that one? And it's almost like, I feel like that's almost so overwhelming at times. People are just like, whatever, I don't know, I'm just going to do a different hobby, play a video game or something.
Yeah. Well, that's why we have things like review channels that try to help people decide if a game's good or not, to be able to like actually get that game. And hopefully they find games that actually align with their tastes, especially if their tastes align with the person reviewing the game. So hopefully that helps out a little bit. It hopefully helps people not spend money that they won't get the enjoyment out of the thing that they spent the money on,
Right?
Yeah.
Who's got whole shelves of games still wrapped in plastic? Like that, man.
Nobody.
Get enjoyment out of that
not
stuff.
a single person.
Right? Enjoy that stuff you spent money on.
I'm about to say the game that I have that's on plastic, the only one I have on my shelf over here, I think, is Destinies, and that's because I just got it. And I've played Destinies plenty of times, but I wanted my own copy. So.
Oh, nice.
Well, I bought a copy because you said it was great, and I still in shrink.
It's amazing. You should take it out of shrink and play it.
It's good.
3 players.
I think one of the
players.
things that also can scare people away from the hobby, if you're not used to it, is the presentation. There have been times where I've set up games. Like we're doing this group now at my church, where Marlo and I once a month we're teaching people board games, and I've learned I have to be very. If I'm gonna pre-set up games, I don't need to set up games that are very busy, because some of the people are like, "Whoa!" Even though it's not a lot going on, they just assume there's a lot going on, and they don't want to. It almost looks like too much for them. They just want something simple and light and easy. And so I think sometimes if you're new into the hobby and you see all of these options on the table, it can be kind of overwhelming for people, and they'd just rather not play.
That's so true. Yeah, I think I've had similar experiences where people are like, oh, this is way beyond me. I can never learn this game, just because they looked at it and see like there's so many pieces and different things.
They see that board
about,
and then they see a rule book with multiple pages, and they're like, no.
Right.
Unless you can teach me how to play this game in 5 minutes. Like my wife, I love my wife, but if the rule book is like more than 3 pages, she's like, why? Why are you even showing this to me? Like, I won't want to play it.
Also, kind of what scares people away from the hobby is I've done this myself, trying to teach people games beyond their level or where they are.
Exactly.
And not realizing it, and then they're like, you see their eyes just like they just are staring off in the distance. They're just
you broke them.
losing it. It's just like,
I
mean, that's definitely a way to push somebody away. It's just by throwing them into the deep end when they're not ready.
Had a traumatic experience.
Yeah. So that's a huge
Dad taught
thing
me how to swim by throwing me in. Yeah.
Grant Lyon, who does comedy, or he does a lot of board game stuff, said that, like, has a joke. I don't know if it's true or not, but he's like, somebody's like, oh yeah, board games. I don't like board games. He's talking to this guy. He's like, oh, I don't like board games. He's like, what? How? Like, there's no one that doesn't like board games. Like, what? Why don't you like board games? He's like, yeah, I went to a friend's house. We were playing this game, and like there were all these like different rules. Like every faction had different rules, and they were like animals and stuff, and they were like all in the forest. And there's like, he's like, did your friends try to teach you Root as like your first board game? They try to teach you Root? It's like, don't teach people Root as the first game you teach them.
Yeah,
like it's so complicated to learn how to play Root. Like you have to like meet people where they're at, and like people that are brand new to the hobby, you shouldn't be trying to like dunk them in the deep end just because it's like, I'm ready for this game, I need more players for Root. Like no, you got to ease people into stuff,
Yeah, you can't introduce people at your level. Like, let me make these friends so I can play this game.
Right, no.
And what you think is an easy game may not be an easy game for someone else.
Right.
And so even if it is easy for them, don't throw them in the deep end finding that out. Because not only will they not play with you anymore, they may not talk to you anymore. They're like, well, this dude's like a little obsessive, a little crazy. I also think a thing that can kind of scare people away from the hobby is social interaction.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people like games where they want to, like, I like big games, but there are a lot of people who may not want to play with 4, 5, 6, 7 other people, or if you do like Murder, Deception in Hong Kong, it's a great social deduction game. But not everybody wants people all around them and looking at their stuff, and they just feel, pressure, unwanted and unnecessary pressure. And so I think sometimes that will push people away too. You need to make sure like people are comfortable with what you're playing and what they're getting into. I've gotten I'm pretty good at this. Like if I see somebody's uncomfortable, like I know when to tone it down or when to pick it up. But that's because I also have sales background. Like I can read body language. But there are plenty of times where I play with new people who don't know, and they think everybody's having the same excitement and fun that they're having. And there's other people who are having like mini panic attacks of like, crap, I didn't want to play this game, and now I'm going to feel like an idiot because I messed up on my turn, and now these people, and they just spiral down. So, yeah, I think that's a big one too.
I think another one could be, and hopefully this doesn't happen as much, and honestly you don't see it happen as much in the board game community, but you definitely see it happen in the trading card game community, and that is people being like too competitive,
Yeah.
It's like, hey, let me teach you this game and then crush you in it, that sort of thing is like rough. It's like, hey, how about you play this deck, I'll play this deck, and then they just go really, really hard, or they don't necessarily teach, so they leave out some of the strategy or some of the tips that they could like help out in a game with, and be like, okay, let me just, I'm not going to teach you how to play this game fully. I'm not going to like let you know, oh, you should really focus on this or that. No. I'm just going to like, these are the rules. Okay, let's go, and then, taking out your opponents in that way. Sometimes people can be a little bit too harsh. Honestly, I don't see that much in board games because most people play them very casually, and a lot of people are helping each other out and things like that. But when you get into those tournament environments or like competitive game environments, people will just dogpile you. Which is, not or necessarily for everybody.
The one person at the table who's overly concerned about winning and everyone else is just trying to have fun. Right. Winning's great, but it's like a kind of, you can have a mismatch there, so that can definitely turn people away if, they're just having a bad experience just because one person's making the game way too intense.
That's why I don't play as much with Courtney anymore as I used to. It was like so intense, and I was just like, man, like Courtney, like let's just play.
Well, at least if you're playing with Courtney, you don't have to worry about winning,
No, because she's
already got that on lock.
She's gonna let you know that she's won, and then when you feel like a peon of a person, she rubs it in just a little bit, or she does the worst thing ever. She just gives you a smile.
I don't know. I know Ruthie's not here to defend herself, but I feel like she's an intense player too. She's probably more intense than I am sometimes.
She's a champion.
It depends on the game, but no, it's fun. I like the ones with like more interaction because then you get to see the intenseness. But no, it's fun.
No, I had to recently. I went back and I bought, because of like this church group I'm doing, I bought Sorry. I bought Trouble. I even bought like I was telling you guys, I bought one of the King of Tokyo games. Like all these like entry level, base level games. I've got like Phase 10 and stuff because I'm trying to see what I can do or what I can provide for people in the group where they're not overwhelmed. Okay, so if I see people are really playing Phase 10, I might want to try to do like a trip taking game that's not Phase 10 to show them something else. You're right, like maybe Fantasy Realms or something, or like that Red 7. Or if I see people are playing like a lot of Trouble or Sorry, I might want them to try to play another game. I was just starts with an A. I can't remember it, but it's a great game. So I'm. That's also part of the excuse, my love. And if you're listening to this is why I bought those games. I'm doing it so I can help those people see what they like to play and how I can kind of introduce them to like that next level game. But some people just want to play cards. We have like. Our biggest game at our board game group is outside of Farkle. It's Sequence, which is just cards, and you're just trying to get matches with your cards. That's it. But they love it. Like, so I think one of the things that can be a big push off is you as the host. Just like Don't, and we've all sort of said it. Don't force feed something.
Right.
Don't force feed. Just, yeah. If they're there and they're taking that chance, just see what happens and be nice about it. Lose the first game or two, get them addicted, then crush them.
There you go. I was gonna say another completely different thing that could turn people off the hobby or scare people away is just the thoughts, and I know none of us feel this way because we're pretty entrenched in it, but like, is that board gaming is like very nerdy, you know, that like, oh my goodness, look at these elves and these space things and all these aliens and all these dragons and stuff like that. Like, what is this? You know, this seems like super nerdy stuff, you know. And it's perfectly fine to play playing cards. It's perfectly fine to play other games, like Monopoly's fine. But if you play with all these Dungeons and Dragons characters or all these weird, funky aliens, that's like deep nerd things, you know.
Or trains.
Or trains. It's like, what? Yeah. You guys are nerding out over that?
Yeah,
that
seems
are
nerdy.
You guys are doing math over there in the corner? That's crazy. But yeah, it's just that I think that can scare people away sometimes. And there's plenty of games that can kind of, I feel like there's games, like literally everybody likes to play games. It's just the finding the right game for the right group of people. Like almost everybody plays mobile games, or everybody plays some sort of card game or some sort of board game, or they would enjoy it if they gave it the chance. It's just breaking down those barriers of like, hey, once again, meeting people where they're at. Like, hey, you might not like the D&D theme, but hey, maybe you like this wingspan bird theme, you know? This is kind of like nice and peaceful. Or like, hey, here's a game about flowers, or like lighting up lanterns, or like all this different stuff. You know, it doesn't have to always be super nerdy IPs, which I am obsessed with, because I am all about the nerd stuff. Like, give me Dune and sandworms and like all this crazy weird spice stuff, but other people might be like, what's going on here?
Yeah, there's so much variety now. You can probably find something that someone is interested in.
Speak to them, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, there's games about all sorts of different sports and things like that, if like people are specifically into sports, you know. So
my copy of the new Dune should be in on Sunday.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it already shipped. Did you guys order it, Kent and Courtney?
Not from them. Not directly from Direwolf.
But you don't get the.
So has yours shipped? Did you already get yours?
No.
I'm making him hold off.
Yeah, what was I gonna say?
They'll get the super blinged out edition and stuff. So yeah.
The cool thing is the new game works with the deluxe version of the first.
The big box.
Yeah, the big box. You can use the same stuff for the big box. So.
I think though too, what you were just saying on the nerdy stuff too. If you come across, and again, I understand I'm not like everybody, but if you can sell it, if you can sell a good experience, you can get people to try a little bit more than you're giving them credit for.
Oh, for sure.
For example,
I think people just get intimidated, right?
People get intimidated, and they have old stereotypes in their heads of what they think it is. Like I was showing some of the people from the group that we play with at the church some of my D&D stuff, and then they were like I made this one LED cloud and I had lightning going through it, and I got dry ice for the dragon, like one of my final bosses and stuff. And then as people died, we put their meeples in the cloud as they were watching the final battle. It was actually kind of funny, and I posted a video of that on my TikTok account. And then my buddy at church, when I was hanging out with all my other buddies, they're like, "Oh yeah, Rob, you know, he plays all these games. He even does D&D." And they're like, "Really?" He does. And I was like, "Bro, you have no idea." And I start to show them the videos, and I start to say like, "I'll let you do whatever you want. You just got to roll well and stuff." And you'll see people like, "All right, man, next time y'all do something, I'll try that out. Next time y'all play, you know, give me a shot. I'll give that a shot. It's like that. It looks like that." It's like, yeah, I set it up to look like this. I just think it comes off of your presentation. And if you're not comfortable doing it, don't do it. But, you know, if you're going to come across very quiet and timid, or, you know, if you're going to succumb to that peer pressure of you already putting up those walls before they're there, like if you're already going to tell yourself they're not going to like this even before I say anything, then they're probably not going to like it, right? You're mentally and emotionally putting up barriers and walls. So I don't know, just give it a shot. I mean, what do you got to lose? They're already not playing with you anyway. So it's already a no anyway. So
I think it's so much easier these days anyway. Like the whole like, oh man, that's too nerd. Everything is nerdy these days. Like the blockbusters are Marvel movies. Used to like get made fun of for reading comic books back in the day. It's all like everybody's a nerd. It's fine. It's okay. Yeah. It's cool to be a nerd these days. So it's way easier to get those things to the table. So
it's a lot of fun, man. I love being a nerd.
I love it.
And I was thinking too. One other thing I think it's a lot better now because Target and Barnes & Noble, Walmart even are like carrying a lot of games. But like, you think like 5-10 years ago, like you couldn't really find much in just regular stores. So like in order to find like a hobby board game, you'd have to go to like a game store, which is predominantly Magic. So it's like that's a little intimidating too to like get into the hobby that way. I mean, like I said, now I think it's a little bit easier. But I think that's like just having access to it too kind of makes it a little harder.
Yeah, for sure.
One thing I've tried to get better at over the years too is I'm not a big fan of some of those mass market games that some people just love, like Trouble and all that kind of stuff. But like I'm trying to be more, if people like that game, that's great. Awesome. I'm happy they're playing games anyway and, being in the board game hobby. So I'm trying to like, maybe introduce them to something different if they want that, but not necessarily push that. And, they can still like Monopoly and still have a great time with that. And that's awesome. Oh, yeah. I'm trying not to like be so negative on people's choices and as far as their gaming tastes and all that kind of stuff. And there's so many different things you could play and so many different, things you can get out of gaming and you can enjoy from that. They're like, what am I to say that's a bad game or, it might not be a game for me, but if it's a game for you, great.
That's what I feel comfortable with. That's what
I feel like people saying like, I hate Monopoly, I hate this, it's such garbage. Like that just pushes people away. You know what I mean? They don't want to like even.
But when you ask them why they hate Monopoly, well, man, this one time when I was a kid, the game lasted for like 9 hours. My sister would never sell this property, and I got mad, I got grounded, and I flipped the table. So there's always like a story behind it. And I don't care for Trouble or Sorry or other stuff either. But when I started the group, that's the games people were asking for because that's what they knew. And so I bought a couple of those because they're really cheap now. I can get them for like $15. So I was like, all right, let me buy a couple of these basic games. And then behind those basic games, oh, you like this? Well, here's this. You like this one? Well, here's this one. And so it's just a way that they can feel comfortable because they're already coming into a situation where they don't know anything. Like when I show them pictures of my gaming collection, they're like,
So showing them your gaming collection might scare them away.
Well, some people are like, "Wow, I've got a couple games."
You gotta be careful. You gotta be careful with that.
I do. Well,
you don't show them the game right away.
My kids are typically by me. And they're like, "Oh yeah, you gotta see my daddy's got a whole wall type of a thing." And they're like, "No, you don't." I'm like, "Yeah," and I show them. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, Robert, you really are pathetic." I'm like, "Actually, I'm not." And so it's just fun. But yeah, to your point, Ken, that's why I bought those, and it's helped. It's helped, especially like this last time we had this lady who came for the first time and she brought her son, and the lady grew up playing Sorry. So she was able to bring out, she pulled out Sorry. She started playing with her son. But then next thing you know, she's like, all right, well, let me try Deception, Murder in Hong Kong. All right, well, let me try this game over here. And we played a few more games with her, but it was just that, that taking down the barriers type of a thing. But if your friends don't like it, don't spend $15. I'd rather you skip all those games and get a really good game like $50.
So. But I mean, just don't tell people their games are trash. You're just gonna push them away. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just not. It doesn't help anybody to just hate on people's stuff. So
Not at all. I mean, why be a jerk?
Yep, exactly.
But yeah, we're definitely more interested in promoting the things that bring people into the hobby instead of the things that scare people away.
Yes.
So do lots of things to help promote hobby, because I that's one of the good things about board games is that like it kind of helps self-perpetuate itself because everybody wants more people to play board games with, Yeah. It's like we all want to be friendly with people around the table because we all want more people at our table because we all want to get these games that we spent lots of money on to the table. Right, Rob?
Yeah, we don't have to drive 3 hours to play board games with people.
I need a way to interact with people socially without having to talk to them directly.
Right? My favorite part of it, though, is like we have this older woman in our group. Her name is Denise, and she talks so much smack. And She is like brand new to board games, but I love every minute. And now whenever I see her, she's always like, "You ready for like our next event is on the 10th." She's like, "Are you ready for the 10th? Are you ready?" She's like, "It's going down." Like every time I see her, and then actually I see Cinda and Mike. Cinda, she's ridiculous too. She's like, she won one of the games we were playing at, and so she's like walking around. "Rob, do you need me to teach you how to play that game?" Girl never played this game before in her life. She just got really lucky and won this game. And all these women are just like smack talking, and I love it. You will, I think you'll find more people are more into things, and you'll find different sides of people that you wouldn't necessarily find in other avenues of life, whether it's a conversation or a social setting. Games can just bring out some really fun and also some, pretty sad, dangerous times, because you do find those jerks who are just like all about winning. But I've loved it. Yeah, every time I see Denise and Cinda, like even Cinda the other day, I was wearing this sweatshirt. She was like, "You better take off my jacket. I like that. I'm a champ now. You better give me that jacket." I'm like, "All right, girl." It's a lot of fun, but you got to be careful not to push people away. You don't want to scare people, like Corey.
Sure. Awesome, guys. Well, I guess we've kind of exhausted this topic a little bit, but I guess we can start to bring this thing a little bit to a close. I do want to thank everybody for checking us out here and hitting up the podcast. We do want to say we're sad that Adam and Matt and Ruthie aren't here tonight, but hopefully
I heard
we'll be
Ruthie
able to.
Cough though. I did hear a cough.
Yeah, she is. We went to a punk show last night and we were out until like 1:30, so she is actually feeling a bit under the weather today. Yeah. So speaking of which, I should probably be getting sleep too. But yeah, good stuff. But yeah, so hopefully we can have the full crew back here in the future. But definitely thanks everybody for joining us here tonight. But yeah, does anybody else have any closing thoughts they want to say before we wrap this thing up?
I don't think so.
No. Play all the games.
Let
fun playing games.
Let Kent beat you in Lorcana.
No.
That way he doesn't have to drive to Winston-Salem just to play games with Rob. He can actually win a tournament instead.
Maybe one day.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Good night.
Good night.
Have a good one.